Hi everybody, welcome to today's session. So we are going to be doing something quite ambitious today. We're going to be looking at how you might create cinematic effects in After Effects using quite basic tools. So what we're going to be doing to today's session is we're going to be taking something quite straightforward, which is this maquette tracking video that I've provided you with on Moodle, which is where I've built some kind of fake buildings and put marks on them, as you can see, so that we can motion track them to get the motion exactly right. And we're going to try and turn that into something like this. So the video for that is on Moodle as well. You can have a look at it now. I've sort of not taken a huge amount I've taken time on it obviously, but I haven't kind of done all of the bits that I would normally do for something like this if I was doing it for, a finished product, such as cutting into the rotors to make them move a bit more and tidying up some of the keying on this rubble and that sort of thing. And obviously some of the buildings that I've got here that I'm going to be using today have got watermarks on them because I've just taken them off Google. But the point I'm trying to make with this tutorial today is that you can actually, without having to go into the world of designing sets in 3D and all the rest of it, you can actually build quite convincing cinematic style, ambitious looking scenes and sequences in After Effects using a bit of imagination and quite basic tools. So that's what we're going to try and do today. So there's going to be multiple videos because, as you can see, there's lots of bits going on here that we're going to need to understand. It's not as complicated perhaps as it might look to begin with. You might be like, oh my god, look at all those layers, but actually lots of them are duplicates, so we'll see how they all stack up. But what we're going to do then is we're going to start first of all by tracking the maquette video that I've shown you. Now I'm going to provide you hopefully with an After Effects project with that all fully tracked, so you don't have to spend time tracking that in the session. But I'd like you to just have this as a reference video just so that you know how I did it, so that you can do your own in future. Okay, so here's what we're going to do then. I'm going to save this. Here we go, helicopter project. I should have saved this before I did the recording, shouldn't I? I'll just save that into my documents for now. I'll tidy that up later. Right, file, new project. Okay, so I'm going to start a new composition, 1920 by 1080 pixels. Okay, and 30 frames per second because I've filmed the maquette video on my phone, which is sort of roughly 30 frames per second. So this is our composition. And the first thing I'm going to do then is I'm going to bring in, if you download the tracking project assets folder from Moodle, then you should find there's the green screen track video in here. So you're going to drag that first of all over into your project window and then drag that down onto your timeline. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is I did this very, very simply. It was during lockdown actually, so I didn't have access to a lot of stuff, which again was sort of emphasizing the point you don't always need loads of kit to try and make interesting things. So I used my phone to just track this, and I also just put it on a cutting mat which I slid across a table. So it's not the smoothest thing in the world, you can make it smoother than that if you want to, but the point is the clip starts before it starts moving, and then it stops and before the end of the clip. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find a point where this begins to move. So we're going to start moving about there. So it's moving at nice speed, and I'm going to drag this end of my workspace up to that point, so I'm only tracking the bits that I want. And then I'm going to move my playhead through to the other end, and there's a point where this starts to slow down, so I'm going to track to about there. That'll do. So I'm going to about 7 seconds. That'll be fine. And then I'm going to take this work end area. If you get the double arrow, by the way, here, then look what happens. It will move you. Oh no, sometimes it will move your whole play area. So you just there like that. Okay. So I'm going to Command Z to undo that, and then get the single arrow and move that into my playhead. There we go. So now if I hit the space bar, then my clip should just cycle between bits of continuous smooth movement. Good. Right, now that I'm only using that bit, I'm going to drag this slider here across so that I can see my footage. Okay. Now then, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we've got this green screen video tracked first. And then we're going to go onto our tracker. And if you can't see your tracker, you can go up into Window and you can turn on the tracker up here. Okay, so you're going to go into your tracker and I'm going to click Track Motion. And you might remember the way that this works, but I'm just going to go through it again anyway. So I'm going to zoom in using the wheel on my mouse on my trackpad. Okay, I'm not going to click on the plus point or any of the corners. I'm going to click inside the box and pick it up, and I'm going to mount this onto one of the tracking crosses that I've drawn on my maquette. If you want to move your screen around, you hold down the space bar to get the hand tool and move it around so you can see it more easily. Okay, and the idea is that you're expanding this search area. So you're saying when you're looking for the point that I want you to track, look inside this area first to find this black cross, then look inside the black cross to find this specific pixel, and then you want that specific pixel. So you don't want one of these, like one of the pixels that are right in the middle of this, because then it won't know which black pixel to track. You want one that's right on the edge of the black and white, so it goes, I always know that this pixel is here in the kind of armpit of the cross, if you like. Okay, now I've made a mistake here because I've got my timeline slider in the wrong place. I'm going to drag that back to the start. I'm going to zoom in again, do just what I just did, which is pick it up and drag it to that point there, about there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is come over to my tracker, and I've got my analyze backwards and analyze forward tools. I can analyze forward in an animated way, and I can analyze forward frame by frame. So I'm just going to analyze forward in an animated sense, real-time sense, because I'm pretty confident that it's going to be able to track this thing. So let's try it. There we go. So it's tracking nice and smoothly, and then once it goes off the edge of my workspace, I'm just going to click that button again, which was a square, and it's gone back to the triangle now to say, yep, I've stopped it. So that's all my tracking data. Looks fairly good. Okay. The next thing I need to do then, if you remember your tracking tools, is I need to go onto Layer and New and Null Object. Now a null object is a clip, but it has no data in it at this point. So we're going to fill it with the data of the track building. So here's our null object, and the first thing we're going to do with this project, because as you saw in the previous one, there's lots of layers, so we're going to go null object, and I'm going to right click on it to rename it, and I'm going to call it building 2. Okay, just so that we know where everything is. Each time we create a new layer, we're going to rename it, otherwise we're going to get lost. Okay, what we do then, come back over to our tracker, and we click Edit Target, Building 2, and then we're going to click OK. And then just apply X and Y. And now as we play through our clip, we can see that our building is tracked. So you see that red square, which represents the null object, is moving nice and smoothly along with our maquette. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is trying to track these ones on these foreground buildings, because these ones obviously are going to be more problematic, because this one is fine right up to the point where it isn't any longer. Okay, so what you're going to do is track these as much as you can. So what I'm going to do with this first one is I'm going to highlight the video again, track motion. I'm going to bring my tracker down onto this cross like so, open that up like that. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to track this as far as I can. So I'm going to click forward and let it track, let it track, let it track, let it track. And then when it gets to a point where it's almost about to go off the screen, so like that, I'm now going to click it again, and now I'm going to click my Analyze Frame Forward button, and I'm just going to analyze frame forward, frame forward, frame forward, and keep doing that until it bounces away from that cross into the center of the screen because it's lost the track. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Command Z to undo that. So that's as far as I can go with my tracking data. Okay, I'm going to go up to Layer, a new null object, and I'm going to call this, rename this one to building 1. And now I'm going to, over in my tracker, edit target, and I'm going to select building 1. I'm going to click OK and apply X and Y. And now I've got 2 null objects attached to two different buildings. And because of the way that I've made this maquette, with the camera positioned in proximity to these buildings, and they're moving independently of one another, of course, because they're all on the base, on a base that I made. They're all going to move at different speeds, which means that when we start tracking buildings to them, they should hopefully move at a consistent speed to match the perspective of these buildings. Okay, as I say, the problem comes when this building goes off the side of the screen. As you can see, at that point we lose the tracking data for that null object. We'll deal with that later on once we actually have buildings in play. So I'm going to end this video now. I'm going to track the rest of my maquettes, then I'm going to join you in the next video, and then we'll make a start. But you can begin with the next video because obviously you've got a tracked After Effects project already to begin with. Okay, I shall see you in the next video.